Mic check 1 2, it's the Y2K collector, and I am still getting games from GameStop's buy two get one promo. So on the very last day of the promo, I decided to make one final stab and pick up a few games just to maximize on the promo, because I know we only get that promo once a quarter. And so what I decided to do was get a few more GameCube games as well as some N64 games, and I'm waiting on the N64 stuff to come in, but I did wind up getting some of the GameCube games, and I'm actually pretty satisfied with what I've been getting from GameStop during the course of this promotion. They've definitely stepped their game up in terms of giving you complete in box stuff, and it feels like they're making more of an effort to give buyers complete games that are in good shape and that are worth keeping. I know that there are many folks who, when they do purchase games from GameStop, if the game isn't complete, or if the game, if the disc is too scratched, or if it's missing a manual, they may not be as eager to keep the game, and so they may want to bring it back. But I have a couple games here that I recently got from GameStop's website, and I'm going to share with you the condition that I got these games in. So the first game that we have here is Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Sunshine is obviously a classic GameCube game. It's, you know, part of the 3D All-Stars that includes Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, and I believe Mario Odyssey, spanning across the N64, the GameCube, and then the Nintendo Wii. So here we have the Mario Sunshine, and when I got this, I was actually really shocked because I didn't understand why I got Mario Sunshine, because Mario Sunshine was not the game that I ordered. The game that I actually did order was the game that came inside, which was Mario Party 4. So while I much would have rather to get even if I didn't get the manual, I would have rather to get a boxed copy of Mario Party 4 just to at least have the matching case and game. I'm still glad that I at least got a GameCube case. I know a lot of times when they don't have the case that comes with the game, they'll give you like these really generic like plastic cases that can fit almost any disc-based game. So I'm glad they didn't give me that. I'll take a GameCube case because I can always like swap out the cover art if I do happen to find like a Mario Party 4. Or I could always use this case as a backup case for a swap of some sort. But I was glad that I still at least got a GameCube case. But I did get Mario Party 4, and I believe Mario Party 4 might have been the free game. It was either that or the N64 game. And I'm not going to tell you what the N64 game is yet. I'll let you all see that when it actually comes in the mail. But this was the first game that I got as part of the buy two get one, because as you know, I like to try and maximize the pickups as much as I can by you know, getting the 4 or 3 games that are close in price range. So Mario Party 4 was the first one that I picked up. The second one that I picked up was this copy of Zelda, the collector's edition, and I'll just toss the box to the side. But I got this copy of Zelda, the collector's edition, on the GameCube, and I was actually really stoked at the condition that this came in, because not only is the case and artwork in pretty decent condition, as you can see here, yeah, there's a few dimples and there's a few ripples in the plastic, but for the most part, this is in really great shape. And I was a little nervous at first, but once I felt the weight of it, it felt kind of hefty, so I was like, maybe I might have a manual in here. And sure enough, when I popped it up, not only did I have a manual, but I had over here messing up the cover art. I had an almost immaculate manual. I mean, this manual is in really good shape. And then the disc itself is also in pretty good shape. So for those of you who aren't familiar with this game, this is basically like a collection of a bunch of Zelda games. In this collection, you have the original Zelda games, like The Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, of course, Then you have the Ocarina of Time, and then you also have Majora's Mask. So I thought that this was a really cool collection of Zelda games on the GameCube. It's funny because I also got, during GameStop's buy two get one, I got their I got their, where is it at? It's right here. I got their Ocarina of Time and Master Quest games. So I got both of these games during the buy two get one. The only sucky part was that with this one, I did not get any kind of manual. So that's the bummer here. But I still got a case, and I kept it because I at least got the case. So GameStop has definitely got some GameCube goodness going on. And I know that for a lot of folks, they typically do, a lot of folks are trying to collect for the GameCube. I know a lot of folks that are trying to complete the GameCube set. I am not a completionist like that. Someone said that my collection is very random, one of the posts that I saw, and that's actually pretty true. My collection is extremely random. I've got everything from the Neo Geo AES to the TurboGrafx 16 Mini to the Super Nintendo to the PS Vita to the Sega CD and Saturn, the Nomad. I've got just like all types of stuff in my collection, and it's really just like a bunch of stuff that I think is, that I find fun, and stuff that I find extremely nostalgic to me. My brother, before getting a Sega Genesis, I was too young to really remember all the games that my older brother played on his Nintendo, because he got the Nintendo probably, man, like maybe like a couple years, if not a year after I was born. So my brother got his Nintendo like towards the late 80s, and he played that Nintendo for about 3 or 4 years, because I do remember my brother playing games like Zelda, because I remember he would have the golden cartridge. The golden cartridge always stuck out to me, and or stuck out to me. I think that's what I said. So I remember him having the Nintendo. I also remember him, blowing the game, blowing the dust out of the cartridge, and doing all types of things to get the game to work, because he played his Nintendo so much that after a while, like, I feel like it just stopped working. Like, he would have to do all types of tricks to get the game to work. He'd have to leave the flap up. He'd have to like put something to keep the game depressed down into the console. It was just so much stuff that we would have to do after a while. Like, that console had finally run its course. And back in the 90s and the 80s, like, I feel like trading in your console is still a thing. Like, people still do it. But I feel like back in the 80s and 90s, you got a lot more bang for your buck when you traded up a system. So if you took your system into like a game store, you got a little bit more bang for your buck, and it was a little bit easier for you to trade. And like, I grew up in New York, and in New York, we had a lot of like independent game shops that were always it always seemed, and shout out to the Asian community, you guys always have like the best gadgets and the best widgets and stuff like that. But a lot of our like independent game shops were ran by like Asian folks, whether it be Korean, Japanese. They would always like have all the stores in our neighborhood, and shout out to them because they gave decent deals. Towards the late 90s, things started to get real shisty, and you got less and less money for your stuff. But like in the early, like late 80s, early 90s, it was easy to trade up. And I remember my brother trading in like all his Zelda games, his Super Nintendo, and that was when we got the Sega Genesis. And the Sega Genesis is a console that really like sticks out in my mind, because that's the one that we got when I was like old enough to really understand what was going on, because I was probably about 5 or 6 when we got that. So that's when my memories really begin for me as a child. And so the Genesis always stuck out, but I do have faint memories of the Nintendo. And yeah, eventually he did transition, and after a while he traded in his Sega Genesis for a Super Nintendo. So we did have Super Nintendo, but we had Super Nintendo for a very short stint. It was like a very, very short stint. We had Sega Genesis all through the early 90s. I want to say from like 91 all the way to maybe like 95, maybe like 95, maybe even 96 back, and I remember having Super Nintendo not that long, maybe for like a year. And the only games that I remember really watching my brother play on Super Nintendo were ActRaiser 2, Final Fight. I think that was really it. Like I don't remember him playing. Like I know he used to trade in a lot of games, and like yeah, we had Super Mario World for a little bit, but Axlay, I remember my brother playing Axlay for sure. Like he had that game, but like we didn't have the Super Nintendo that long, because like right after we traded in for the Sega Genesis, we got Super Nintendo, and then like I want to say within a year after that was when we finally got a PlayStation. So we got the original PlayStation, and when we got a PlayStation, oh my god, like that thing was like it felt so revolutionary that the original PlayStation felt like it came from outer space. I just remember being a kid and listening to it turn on and feeling like, yo, this thing is from like another planet. That's how revolutionary it was for me as a kid back in the 90s. And I remember the first game that he played was Battle Arena Toshinden. And I know Battle Arena Toshinden was available like on Game Boy and stuff like that, but watching it on like in that 3D polygon on PlayStation, I don't know, it was just something was just so revolutionary. And I just remember thinking like as a kid, the future is going to be amazing, because like look at what we have. So anyway, that's enough story time for me. These are the pickups that I've got here. It's always fun to take a walk down memory lane, for real. Like I think that's one of the reasons why I love video games. I like to play them, but there's so much nostalgia for me with all these systems, and I think that's just why my collection seems so random, because it's literally just bits and pieces of my childhood just all mixed in together. And it's a blast, man. I love collecting games. So let me know what you think about these pickups. What do you think about GameStop and them finally giving us complete in-box games? Do you think they're good? Do you think they're not? Let me know. It's the Y2K Collector. I'll catch you in the next one.